Member from Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you to the Minister for bringing in this amendment. Unfortunately, I too, like the member before me, just cannot support this legislation. Honourable Speaker, this amendment is actually the second amendment we got in 24 hours. We received late in the day yesterday a copy of an amendment to reflect some concerns that had been raised by members in this House, and then later on, after members in this House had gone home, we get a sub-amendment. We get an amendment of the amendment at 7:05 p.m. last night, Honourable Chair. I recognize that the government's trying to modify and take into account some of the concerns about the Privacy Commissioner with respect to people signing agreements, but it's taken this to an entirely new level, Honourable Chair. What it's done is from a situation whereby political parties could acquire voters' lists with information as to who has or who has not voted, it's now extended to candidates who ran in the last election, to candidates who will run in the next election. Honourable Chair, we have people who run in some elections as a protest vote. We are now saying that anybody in the province of British Columbia who was a candidate, who will be a candidate, who might be a candidate, who wishes they were a candidate, is essentially getting access as a protest vote. They get access to this information. Now, I don't have a problem with people having a fair and level playing field, Honourable Chair. That's not the issue here. The issue here is who needs to know whether you voted or not, Honourable Chair. It is nobody's business, Honourable Chair, to know if I voted or if I did not vote, except me and the Chief Electoral Officer, Honourable Chair. We've gone from a situation where British Columbians across the province have stood up and said, we don't like this. We don't like it when government is actually giving political parties information on whether I did or I did not vote. What's the government's response, Honourable Chair? To bring in an amendment, first off, to give political parties and all candidates that same information. Wonderful way of listening to the voices of British Columbians is expand it further. And then at 7:05 last night, they take it another level. They give it to future candidates as well. This is a government that is so out of touch with British Columbians that not only does it not listen to them, it's actually going, when it hears them, or doesn't hear them, it takes it to another level. It's unbelievable, Honourable Chair, that we have this amendment before us today. It's unbelievable that this government is trying to actually give information, private information as to whether I vote, information as to whether the member from Saanich South votes, information as to whether my daughter votes, to political parties, to every candidate who will run, to every candidate who has run. Honourable Chair, what purpose, what possible purpose could this information be used for? It is not going to be used to help voter turnout. Absolutely no way this can be helpful for improving voter turnout. And yet this is the justification government is giving British Columbians, that this somehow is going to improve voter turnout. What this is saying, Honourable Chair, and what we're seeing through this amendment, and what we've seen through the selective use of the recommendations coming from the Chief Electoral Officer, Honourable Chair, is a government that recognizes that it's losing touch with the people and so is initiating in tactics designed for voter suppression of youth, in terms of tactics to give them an unfair advantage because they can't get volunteers anymore, Honourable Chair. Because volunteers, they're finding it a tough time in the Liberal Party of British Columbia to get volunteers to go to be scrutineers. The Green Party of British Columbia has no problem with that. The independent member from Delta South has no problem with that. I won't speak for the opposition, but I suspect they have no problem with that. It's because this government has turned off voters. They cannot get voters to help them out, so they want the government to help itself out through providing information to the government on which they can target voters based on their voting patterns. Honourable Chair, this is so fundamentally wrong that I'm surprised that the government, rather than pulling this section, takes it to another level and tries to create this so-called level playing field. Honourable Chair, this amendment must fail. This amendment should fail. And if there's anything that the opposition on this side will do, I'm sure we will all vote unanimously so that this amendment does not pass. Sadly, it is government who will have to look British Columbians in the face and say, you know what, we don't listen to you anymore. you know what, British Columbians, we're going to get your private information because we want to target you. We want to target you for messaging, target you if you voted or not, because we can't get volunteers because people are straying from our party. And we're desperate to stay in power because we know that our promises of LNG are not going to materialize. We know we're saying this and that and the other, but they're not materializing. Instead, what we're going to do is use your private information to try to manipulate, Honourable Chair, yes, manipulate future elections, to suppress the youth, to get out I mean, the only positive possible way this could be brought in is to turn off voters for voter suppression tactics. And this is absolutely egregious, Honourable Chair, and this amendment must fail.